This is TWiT.
Twitter said this week that they have a solution to all of the problems with misleading political ads, verifying whether claims are true or not. Are they foreign governments trying to control elections? They said, what if we just don't do political ads anymore? How about that? Maybe Jack came up with this while he was meditating. I don't know, probably.
Yeah.
Meanwhile...
His one bit of insight for meditation. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Mark Zuckerberg, now just guess. What do you think Mark Zuckerberg did? Did he say, that's a good idea? You know, we've got all the money. Our latest results came out. Facebook makes all the money. And political ads are a small part of what we do. So, yeah, this is an interesting solution. What if we just... No, he said, I think they're great. Yeah, they're great. We love political ads. And he ended up getting a letter from some Facebook employees saying that they were really troubled by this stance. But guess what? Facebook not going to turn away that sweet, sweet money. And political ads, whether they may be misleading or not, are going to be a part of that. Interesting contrast, though, between Twitter and Facebook and their approach to this, which is kind of like touching on the third rail of regulation in social media. So I want to start with Devindra because I know we've talked about terrible things Facebook's done in the past.
Sure.
What do you think about this whole issue, Twitter, Facebook, and political ads?
Not surprised at all that Zuckerberg is kind of digging in his heels here because this has been the company's mindset for a while now. Even though, we've pointed to a lot of things related to political advertising and political messaging on Facebook and how they're unprepared to handle it. And, they're unprepared to even just deal with any of that information. I think Twitter's solution is probably the best one because it's really hard for any of these companies to police these ads, to really verify them. And at the end of the day, the greater harm, I know, on a societal level is letting bad false information ads out there. At least we know Zuckerberg thinks lying is bad, right? That was his response to AOC. I think lying is bad. That's his big insight. So there you go.
He went to Harvard. I mean, he knows things.
Man,
Man, it's the competition to see who is slightly less of a trash fire in the social media world. And I don't know. The problem with this is going to be, is this going to be like the way that Twitter already sort of moderates hate speech, which is to say ineffectually. They can talk a good game about it. And I think I agree with Devindra that it seems like the right approach, but there's a lot of nuance and a lot of question about exactly how this is going to get enforced. And there's also a lot of questions about how do you enforce things that might be ads not from political candidates, but touch upon political issues? What constitutes a political issue? Because lots of stuff is political. I mean, your opinion on encryption could be political if you're paying for an ad on that. There's just a lot of question about enforcement and how exactly they're going to handle that. And I think I'm not sure, I'm not willing to attribute, Jack Dorsey's motivation here to any sort of altruism or goodness of his heart. I think he probably just wants to avoid having to deal with the problems that Mark Zuckerberg is having to avoid.
Make the pain stop.
I don't think it's going to work for him. I got to be honest. I think they're just going to find themselves embroiled in a huge controversy over what constitutes a political ad, and they're going to do a bad job of making decisions.
There's also an argument to be made that if you say no politics, what you're really saying is if you're somebody who's advocating for something entrenched, if you're a big corporation and you say this is great because it's our company and we're marketing it, if somebody wants to take out an ad and say, no, what this company is doing is bad, that is a political statement. And so that this policy will sort of reinforce the status quo. It's definitely one of the arguments here. I don't ever assume that Facebook is going to do the right thing, although this is a very complicated issue. The problem is Facebook's track record, right? I have a hard time taking Mark Zuckerberg seriously when he says anything at this point, because we have seen time and again that Facebook says one thing and then does another and knows they'll just have to apologize and pay a small fine probably after the fact. And that's not, so it's hard for me to, as we're entering another election cycle here in the U.S., to believe that this isn't going to continue to be an enormous story and that Facebook is not prepared to deal with it.
What if Mark Zuckerberg saying lying is bad was a lie? That's
what?
Like a whole one truth, one lie.
That's impossible because as an android, it would make his head explode.
Yes.
See, that's a Captain Kirk logic conundrum that would happen there. By the way, also this week, Facebook launched a tool that you give it your age and gender, and it provides you with preventative healthcare info. What could go wrong with giving more information? Let's face it, they already know everything about you. So maybe they could tell you to
when they offered
walk a little more.
They offered to let you upload all your nude pictures to them, and then they'd make sure no one else could ever post them. These are the kind of ideas that come out of that organization.
They're using their brains. It's because they're smart.